Okay guys, welcome back to the YouTube channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Will Draper. I'm a professional triathlete, and about 7 years ago I swapped to triathlon from a childhood of cycling. Now I'm ranked, I think, 80th in the world on long course and kind of trying to make my way closer to the top. It's been a long process, as you can imagine. And yeah, one of the biggest things, particularly for this video, was swimming, trying to get better at swimming, coming from a point of knowing how to swim but never really having been in a pool to swim any lengths, and yeah, about how I got from there to kind of where I'm at now, which I'd say is swimming maybe a threshold of like 117, 118 in the pool pretty comfortably, and I've went under the minute for a 100-meter sprint in the pool and things like that, so really quite competitive for the most part, but obviously for me as a professional and trying to get to the highest level of the sport, there's still a few more years to go. So today's video is focused on that 130 threshold barrier. I think I wanted to make this video because a lot of YouTube videos are aimed at like people that are new to swimming or just kind of getting into things and then maybe trying to get down to that 130 pace, but I found for me it was a place that I plateaued for a long time and it felt like I couldn't really get off it, and hopefully that kind of relates to a few people, and I'm going to kind of give you the few tips and things that I learned kind of being there and just give you some sort of advice on that front, because a lot of the time the advice from swimmers is harder to kind of understand because they're so natural and they've kind of never really even had the 130 barrier. If they did, they were probably like 12 years old or 10 years old, so they've not really plateaued on there. Okay, so my first tip is don't chase 130 pace. So this is something that I kind of got wrong for probably the best part of 2 years, at least 18 months. And that was that when you want a threshold of, say, 130, 120, whatever it is, at these faster speeds, it's possible to swim them speeds, but the thing is you're not doing threshold. Threshold is a zone that technically should be sustainable for an hour, but I'd like to think, given standard training fatigue, maybe something more that you could hold for 30 to 40 minutes, but at least something that you could comfortably go 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 meters at on repeats and not feel yourself slowing down as the reps are getting longer. I think an easy mistake to make is that in the keenness of wanting to go under 130 pace or get to 130 pace, or you know that the people in the pack in front of you or the fastest guys that you compete against are swimming a threshold of, let's say, 128, 125. The thing is, it's easy to, you can make sessions where you can do that. You could do 100 repeats, you could have quite a bit of rest, you could only have a 1500 meter main set, or all these different things that like make it possible to swim that pace, but in reality that's not your threshold. And then there's also the fact that you can push harder than threshold. So threshold is, if you say on a 5-zone model, you'd say maybe zone 4 or even upper zone 3, because then you have your VO2 max, and then you have like anaerobic speed where, like, if you think you put your head down, sprint and don't even breathe. So yeah, one of the things that I did was kind of accidentally, or through kind of, you learn after a while, was the just chasing it too hard, because threshold sessions are great for improving your threshold, but not if you're just like actually swimming too hard. So just think about, you could get your threshold under 130, but for the time being your threshold pace has to be 135 or 133. It shouldn't be 130 or 128. It shouldn't just be best average. That's like a mistake that people make in their sessions. They just try and do it as well as they can and hope that that's their threshold. But yeah, so my first tip is like actually set yourself a zone or a time that you know is realistic threshold, and it isn't pushing past that just because your like mind and your ego wants you to be faster than you actually are. So that leads me to my second tip, which is to have purpose and consistency. So one of the times that I find hardest in the pool is when you've kind of lost your purpose. It's obviously easy post-race or into some races to have that motivation, that purpose, but at other times of the year it can be hard, and without reason it's hard to stay in the pool. And I still get this now, and I still kind of think about it and still have times when I don't enjoy the swimming, but this, I find my most progress and my most consistent periods have been when they've been when I've had this purpose. So prior point being to swim threshold at threshold, that's good purpose for the session. You know what you're going in to do, you know the pace, you know the reason. So same again, having sessions where you're going to swim maximum, having sessions where you're going to swim upper aerobic, having sessions when you're going to focus on technical points, having sessions when you're going to swim easy and recover, or even having sessions that have a mixture of both. I just think it's important that you have that purpose before you get in the water to give you a reason to stay in the water, because it's not easy, it's not actually fun. And I mean, there's times that are good, and to be honest, I find the physical, the doing of it, not the most fun thing. I'm usually one of them people that it's the outcome that drives me, and that feeling of I've worked hard towards this and I've improved, or I've had a good result or whatever. So yeah, I just think consistency in your program and purpose in your sessions is going to be your next step to improving that kind of threshold barrier. Tip number 3 is get lessons. It's not like cycling or running or not even cycling, run, like anything. A lot of people think, let's say skiing or snowboarding, a lot of people think that you get lessons just as a beginner, which is true, like that is the most popular place for lessons. But I found some of the lessons I was getting and working one-to-one with a coach was so important, especially at that 1:30 barrier, because there's a few technical things that literally in the space of one hour session, you could drop 1 or 2 seconds. And then you kind of revisit that. And for the cost of them, I think I was paying maybe £50 or £60, and I'd get some GoPro footage to take home with that and work with a decent coach. For the cost of them, it was definitely worth it when you compare it to other things in the sport. That knowledge is key, understanding your own stroke is key, and just it's an easy point. It's not something that I can really help you with, just tell you to do it. Just don't be shy, find a coach. If you have to travel a bit, so be it, but yeah, commit to getting a lesson and working with someone that can look at your stroke and give you some feedback, and that could help take you off that plateau at the barrier you're at. So my 4th tip, which is kind of leading back to what I've just said about getting off of the plateau or off the barrier, is not to necessarily chase in a training cycle getting faster. Think about either increasing the duration of the sets, so the volume of your main set, so adding more meters on physically, or reducing the seconds of rest you've got. So on threshold sessions, we tend to take between 5 to 15 seconds of rest. I know other people do more, but that's what the squad that I swim with do. And there'll be periods in the year where we're purposely going on really tight off times. And what we're trying to do is almost not slow down and work over the weeks to keep this off time really tight so that the heart rate stays like pinned up high. And then what that's going to teach us to do is that we are going to then stay on that pace. We're not asking any more of ourselves from a pace perspective, more just in terms of output, being able to manage it off less rest, and we're going to build through that. And then the period will come when you change things and you increase the rest. And now if you think, I'm going to increase the rest, I'm going to go back up to a longer rest period, that is then an opportunity to go faster, and that has come from working off them tighter off times. So if you're someone that takes you do 20 times 100 meters and you do it off 1:45, so you start every minute 45 and you're coming in on 1:33, 1:34, giving yourself about 12 seconds rest. You could push yourself, you don't have to do it all in 1 week. You could do 15 off 1:45 and the last 5 off 1:40, or you could do 10 and 10, 15 and 5, and then work to a point where now you're doing all your reps off 1:40 rather than 1:45. And then from there, you can swap it back, go back to off 1:45, and just see if you can pick up that pace a little bit, because you're going to feel like, well, I'm waiting on the wall longer than usual. I feel a little bit better, and that's one of the ways that I've kind of managed to get off a plateau in the past. My final tip is stay patient. So if you've come this far in the video, you're obviously someone that's keen to improve your swim, which is admirable. That's what I've done, and I still try and do that. And if I'm ahead of you in terms of from where I'm at to where we both want to get to, then I just have to say stay patient. It's been a hard challenge physically and mentally. And it's definitely easy to doubt yourself and to doubt what you're doing. Don't think that I have all the answers, even though I give out advice. It's just because I know how hard it can be, and I still have periods when I'm like, oh, I don't quite know if I'm doing the right thing, but I stayed committed, stayed on it, and yeah, it's different to other sports. It's like a mixture of skill and physicality and skill, kind of practice as well as training. So yeah, just keep at it, stay consistent, think of the tips that I've kind of put across in the message today. And if you want to drop any comments with any other questions, or if you don't want to ask a question openly, just send me a DM on Instagram and I'll try and get back to you. They don't always come through, it's sometimes a bit weird, but I will try and dig back through and make sure I reply to people, because I felt like when I was at the position you're probably in, this kind of stubborn place in swimming, it was difficult to reach out to people because the good swimmers were almost too good, and then the less good swimmers that were in between where I was and where the good swimmers are, they didn't really speak about swimming too much because they probably felt a bit like an imposter. So yeah, hopefully that's been of help to you, and if you liked it, then subscribe. And I'm going away on a camp soon, so I'll be able to get some more content out there, but this was kind of one of them educational videos, and yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.